Muharram 5. On the 5th of Muharram, the tyrannical governor of Kufa, Ibn Ziyad, was trembling inwardly, gripped by fear and the pressure of Husayn's unwavering truth. The fear of rebellion was etched on his face, while a burning lust for power smoldered in his heart. In this state of anxiety, he sent a cruel and inhuman order to Umar ibn Sa'd. If Husayn refuses to pledge allegiance, waste not a single moment. Kill him and all his companions. Cut off their access to water so that the torment of thirst might force them to submit. This was not merely a command, it was a satanic ploy, a desperate and doomed attempt to break Husayn ibn Ali. Ibn Ziyad forgot that a head bowed in submission to Allah by Ali could never bow before a corrupt tyrant like Yazid. Umar ibn Sa'd was no stranger to Husayn. He was a close relative, but that bond could not save him because he chose the world over truth. Ibn Ziyad dangled before him the oldest weapon in history, greed. If you eliminate Husayn, we will appoint you governor of Rai, a prosperous region in present-day Iran. Rai was fertile and wealthy, and Umar ibn Sa'd's heart was weak. He gave in. Instead of earning a place in the pages of honorable history, he was lost forever in the disgrace of betrayal. Meanwhile, the size of Yazid's army at Karbala had swelled to between 35,000 and 40,000. Spears, swords, armor, and war gear stretching as far as the eye could see. But behind this mighty facade was a hollow core. Conscience is dead and leadership blind. On the other side stood Imam Husayn, with only a few dozen devoted companions. No wealth, no power, only the sword of faith, the fortress of conviction, and the shield of trust in God. This was the true strength, unconquerable by any army. In the scorching plains of Karbala, Husayn's innocent children, helpless women, and loyal followers suffered the agony of thirst. The sun blazed mercilessly, the searing sands scorched their feet, and their lips were parched. 3 days without water had drained their bodies and tested their spirits. Yet Abbas, the beacon of loyalty, repeatedly braved his way toward the river, restless because of Sakina's thirst. The enemy had placed guards on the Euphrates. Yazid's cruelty now ruled even over water. In this merciless atmosphere, Imam Husayn urged his companions to be patient, saying, "Be patient, for thirst is your path to paradise." These were not mere words of comfort. They were a glimpse of a higher purpose, turning patience into worship and martyrdom into ultimate triumph. Then came the moment when Imam Husayn stood alone before the enemy ranks and with a voice filled with pain and honor called out, "Am I not the grandson of the Prophet? Am I not the son of Ali? Am I not the beloved of Fatima Zahra?" The air trembled, spears quivered. Many soldiers were struck with shame. But Ibn Ziyad's terror had become the chain that bound their souls. They recognized the truth, but lacked the courage to stand by it. Among them, a storm raged in the soul of Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. He kept listening to the Imam's words, glancing at the tents, and breaking down inwardly. He realized that the Husayn he was ordered to block was in fact the beacon of truth. And thus, on the 9th of Muharram, Hurr became the most beautiful symbol of repentance. With eyes full of tears, he came to Husayn's feet and became the first martyr of Karbala. Meanwhile, in Husayn's tents, there was an extraordinary spiritual tranquility. Outside, death danced in the air, but inside, the Quran echoed. Night-long prayers, flowing tears, and hearts filled with the resolve of martyrdom. Every moment was a step closer to God. Imam Husayn was preparing his companions not only for battle, but for spiritual ascension. In those sacred nights before death came, the light of faith shone bright. Every martyrdom would become an eternal lamp, glowing for all time to come. In contrast, Yazid's soldiers were steeped in blind obedience. They were fed the narrative, Husayn is rebelling against the caliphate, killing him is jihad. To cement this false propaganda, court-appointed clerics issued deceitful religious rulings. The name of religion was used, while its spirit was being slaughtered. To silence conscience, the mask of religion was worn. And this became the deadliest weapon in history. Yazid's fatwa-driven war was, in truth, a war against truth. And Husayn's silence became humanity's loudest cry. Muharram 6. On the 6th of Muharram, the atmosphere in Karbala grew even heavier and more stifling. the clouds of tyranny darkened further as Umar ibn Sa'd called for reinforcements from Kufa. The noose of Yazid's army around Imam Husayn and his caravan was tightening. According to historical accounts, by this day the number of Yazid's troops in Karbala had exceeded 20,000. Spears, swords, horses, and faces filled with hatred on every side. Against these overwhelming numbers stood only a few dozen loyal companions of Imam Husayn. But the weight of hearts was different. On that side were numbers. On this side was truth. Messages from Yazid continued to arrive. Force Husayn to pledge allegiance, or kill him. This was not merely a political directive. It was a reflection of the blind frenzy of falsehood that seeks to silence every voice of truth. Yazid was not afraid of Husayn's sword. He feared Husayn's truth. That is why he was determined not to let Imam Husayn live freely under any circumstances. The behavior of Yazid's army made it clear. They had not gathered for a battle. They were there to complete an act of injustice. In contrast, the camp of Husayn was filled with patience, contentment, and unwavering conviction. As the siege tightened and signs of war became more apparent, even then, Imam Husayn kept the doors of peace open until the very end. Once again, he sent a message to Umar ibn Sa'd. "We do not seek war. Let us go back or allow us to move to a distant border region so that the blood of the Prophet's nation may be spared." These words were not a sign of weakness. They reflected Imam Husayn's deep concern for the welfare of the Ummah, his aversion to unjust bloodshed, and his representation of Islam's peaceful message. But when this message reached Ibn Ziyad, the heartless reply was the same. Either Husayn pledges allegiance to Yazid or prepares for war. Now the matter was clear. Their objective was not the defense of religion, but the protection of power. In response, Imam Husayn uttered the historic words that eternally established the foundation of dignity and truth. "I can never give my hand in allegiance to humiliation. I will accept death, but I will never bow before falsehood." These words echoed through the heavens, were engraved upon the earth, and were immortalized by history. Imam Husayn then gathered the people of his camp and declared that war was now certain and martyrdom was near. A silence fell over the tents. Eyes welled with tears, but hearts were filled with an unusual calm. They knew that while they may give their lives, the banner of truth would never fall as long as they stood with Husayn. By now, not only were their bodies prepared, but their souls stood ready to embrace martyrdom. Imam Husayn's defiance had forever uplifted the dignity of humanity. As the shadows of battle grew darker, Imam Husayn, along with his companions, began to make strategic defensive preparations with wisdom and foresight. To prevent a surprise attack from the rear, Imam Husayn ordered a trench to be dug behind the tents. This trench was later intended to be set ablaze to serve as a barrier, so the enemy could not reach the tents from behind. This was not merely a tactical move. It demonstrated Imam Husayn's farsightedness, his concern for the safety of his camp, and his principle of utilizing available means while trusting in God. At the same time, Imam Husayn did not focus solely on physical defense. He emphasized spiritual and moral readiness as well. Once again, he reminded his loyal companions of patience, perseverance, and the deeper meaning of martyrdom. Though silence prevailed in the tents, Imam Husayn's voice penetrated to the depths of every heart. He said, "My companions are like none other in the world." This was not just praise. It was a certification that forever elevated the status of his followers. In Imam Husayn's eyes, they were priceless jewels, willing to sacrifice their wealth, families, and lives for the sake of truth. Their loyalty, their willingness, and their unwavering belief were such that the Imam called them the best of all companions. These were the moments when every companion knew that tomorrow might never come. Yet their pledge of loyalty to Imam Husayn had conquered every fear in their hearts. In these moments, Karbala was not just a battlefield. It had become a spiritual academy, where Imam Husayn engraved the difference between truth and falsehood deep into every soul. No battle took place on the 5th or 6th of Muharram. Thus, according to historical tradition, no martyrdoms of companions or al-bayt occurred during these days. These were days primarily of military preparation, spiritual reflection, and moral strengthening.